back to Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons, founder of Unlock the Magic, coaching and healing, and facilitator of Magic School. I'm joined today with Amanda Sung. Amanda Sung is a Taiwanese Canadian writer who crafts her stories from the inside out. How to Break a Girl, drawn from the scars and triumphs of her own journey as a satellite child growing up in Canada without parents. Her work isn't just imagined, it's lived, with each character carrying a piece of her infused with the hard-won wisdom of a childhood spent navigating displacement and an adulthood forged by survival. Amanda holds a bachelor's in communication from Simon Fraser University and a master of journalism from the University of British Columbia. How to Break a Girl evolved from her graduate thesis, originally conceived as a memoir, now reimagined as fiction. She's also known as an empathetic leader with over 15 years of experience in marketing and branding. Storytelling, one of her superpowers, is evident in How to Break a Girl, where she explores the complexities of an immigrant's life through varied lenses. When she isn't writing, she can be seen at the gym or cocktail bars. She's also hosted segments for Novus TV and modeled for the Regent Hotel. Be sure to check out her piano covers on Instagram, which we'll share later on. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Amy. I really appreciate the intro.
Oh, my pleasure. Feels so kindred. One of the reasons I reached out to you is that I saw your book, and famously in my life, that was one of the things my boss has said to me. And I said, oh, today's my last day. So that really called to me. And then of course I was in marketing for 20 years. And so we have a lot in common.
So glad to hear that. And I'm really happy to hear that the title resonates with you. That's really the point of writing this book.
How to Break a Girl. I mean, when did this book come out?
It came out paperback on September 19th, 2025 on Amazon.
Nice. So just recently.
Yes, very recent.
I imagine this could resonate, with anyone. Recently, there have been a lot of conversations in Women Making Moves about the intentional takedowns of women out in the workplace, but also out on social media when we go to build our own thing and the algorithms may suppress us. So feels like everyone's trying to break a girl. Tell me more.
So the reason why that I wanted to fictionalize my memoir into How to Break a Girl is that I really hope every single girl out there, whether or not they're immigrants, could find a version, right, of themselves on the pages, such as, for example, family abuse, divorce lawsuits, domestic violence, gender violence, and of course, sexism and racism, right? And I just really hope that the readers know that they're not alone. And this is a safe space where we could feel validated, right? And seen, and it's okay to talk about it because a lot of times in Asian culture, anything related to mental health or shame are not allowed. They're quite taboo. I was actually telling a friend of mine the other day that how a family looks in an Asian culture is so important to the people that we go to church with, our neighbors, or even cashiers at Wrench 99. So just really hoping that this novel can offer that safe space for women to really open up and share.
So you do have a memoir as well, and then you turn it into the fiction?
Yes. So the memoir was my thesis from my master's of journalism program at UBC.
And what was the process like with fictionalizing, and how did you come up with that?
The reason is actually in the novel.
We'll save
right.
it then.
Mm-hmm. It's a legal reason. On top of that, when I was 23 years old, right, like having written my memoir thesis, I just didn't think that I knew enough about life at that age. And as time went on, I wanted to reach more audience, right? Like commercialize it in the way that it's going to resonate with more types of demographics. And that's kind of how I decided to distribute my own life experiences among 3 Asian female immigrant protagonists. One of them is from Korea, one is from Hong Kong, and one is from Taiwan. And the book is about their friendship and how they navigate love and career, a bit like Sex in the City, in addition to basically everything that many immigrants would have had to experience.
What does How to Break a Girl mean?
To me, the title, How to Break a Girl, means no matter how hard things and people in our lives try to break us, they will never break the girl. And that's, I believe, the core message of that title. Initially, I was going to create this book cover that looked like a Chinese chessboard game. And I was going to make various elements from my novel into basically the queens and the knights and all that. And I was going to also make it a game that could never be won, in the sense that that would have implied that you could never break the girl. However, when I tested that cover option among my beta readers and friends and colleagues, none of them could tell that it was a board. So I gave up. However, I mean, I do love my current cover. It's more relatable. It's more commercialized. But at least people are able to tell what.
It's interesting because when I left corporate, I was thinking about writing a book and I wanted to write about how I didn't want to play the game anymore. That's what makes me think of, and again, this is what I experienced in corporate. It just felt like, well, you got to play the game. I don't want to play the game. I just want to show up, do good work, earn a living, and have a nice life, you know?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about writing a book about that, and it just kind of fell off my radar, but I was I was gonna I was gonna call it something like The Buzzer Needs Batteries, meaning the buzzer of a scoreboard, like there's no break and it just like the buzzer keeps going off. And when I explain this to a few people, it reminds me of this is the story you just told. Like you're so into your original idea, and when I told a few people, they're like, that doesn't really land. I don't really get it. I'm like, okay. And it just
I
lost,
know what you mean. Yeah.
I just lost steam. I was like, okay.
Well, have you heard of this book called Nice Girls Don't Get Corner Office?
Yes.
Hmm. And I remember taking the quiz in the beginning of that book when my sister and I both did that. And it turned out that both of us were just too nice, which means that we were just never going to get a corner offices. However, I, I do often question the importance, I guess, air quote, the importance of being nice or not nice or playing the game and what the game is and whether or not there is a way that perhaps we can even have a say in how the game is designed, right?
Well, the game, the game was never designed with us in mind. That's
I
kind of
know.
that's kind of where it all starts. I think that's why I didn't want to play it because I'm like, well, yeah, but it's like showing up to the game and all the players are blue and I'm red
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I don't fit. And so
Hmm.
innately, like I've got to act like a blue player. And
Hmm.
I was like, enough, enough. I want to go out and be my red, amazing self out in the world. And I just unsubscribed from the game.
Love that. Love that.
So I think we're talking about the larger systems, of course, that uh dating back to the very beginning, who's included, who's not. And this element of breaking. Humanity feels broken right now. We have not prioritized humanity in a very long time. I know it in my soul that women are specifically the pioneers to bring us back together to that humane spot. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about your philosophy on no matter what you do, you can't break a girl, a woman. You can't break us. And there are actually moments every single day that we likely do feel broken on some degree or some level because none of the systems were designed with us in mind. So it's like just outside looking in constantly. And that's not from a victim place. It's just from like we've always had to work that much harder.
Yeah,
And
I'd agree with you.
and as a white woman, I don't have it nearly as tough. I have privilege and it's still frustrating to me. So,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. The other day, when I was suffering from my regular monthly course, which I have had since I was 10 years old. Okay,
mm,
imagine like multiple decades. And I was just lying in bed wondering how much time I had quote unquote wasted on just recovering from the pain every single month, multiple days every month, when the men out there do not have to actually deal with that. And just imagine how much more time the men out there have had to really either get a head start or prepare longer for that presentation and a pitch and whatnot. So man, like I mean, but at the same time, I just feel that the world has overlooked how resilient we women are, how much we have endured, right? So much more than a lot of men have had to biologically, physically. Yeah, and that's just one thing that I think about every month. And on top of that, when I moved to Canada at the age of 16 years old, my parents were together at the time. However, my father was a professor at a university in Taiwan, and he was never going to live in Canada basically full time because he knew he was never going to be able to get that socio economic status as a professor in Vancouver. My mother was a pharmacist and she actually made really good money. However, because she was the woman, the mother, right? So by default, it was her job to stay in Vancouver with me and my sister to basically be the caretaker, whereas my father would be the only one that was bringing in income. And that gave him a lot of power, to be honest. For example, 6 months into our first year in Canada, my father brought his mistress into our home in Vancouver, and my mother oftentimes like was asked to cook for the mistress. And at the end, my mom just decided to go back to Taiwan to be with her mom and dad. And then, yeah, and then my father was able to quote unquote, I guess, get rid of her and live his happy and, like live his happily ever after. And I often wonder, what if mom has stayed in Taiwan? Like, why didn't our father stay with us instead, right? That would just so it goes without saying kind of arrangement.
and how's she now?
She is still a pharmacist, making very good money, more than my father. So I'm really glad that, she was able to get out of it, right? And yeah, so if we look at my mom, my father, his mistress, all the circumstances try very hard to break her,
Mm,
but they didn't. And she remained very much intact, happier than she ever was when she was in that marriage.
yeah. I think that's what I look back at all of the life experiences that I've had that were quote unquote bad. And as an energy coach, I don't necessarily subscribe to right or wrong, good or bad. It's like everything unfolds the way it's meant to, and we get to meet every moment with the best we can. But at the same time, I can unequivocally say some things felt bad in life. Many things feel actively bad in life.
Mhm.
And at the same time, it's this moment where I'm curious if you agree, and this might be annoying to a lot of people, but at some point it is for our best interest. But at the time, it sucks.
I know, I know. So I used to tell my mom all the time that I wished I had never been born. I wish she had not given birth to me because, like I mentioned earlier, right, like what's written in the book, all the trauma that I have experienced, sexual assault, all kinds of violence, abuse. And I just used to often wonder, why me? Why did all of this happen to me? And then why did my parents have to give birth to me for me to have gone through all that? And then I started actually going to therapy school after having seen a dozen different therapists around the world, Canada, US, Taiwan. I have decided to explore the possibilities of me becoming a counselor myself to see potential, I guess, individuals who might have had the same experiences as I have. And from my perspective, listening to them, hearing them out on the other side, right, of the room. And I actually learned about this core concept of humanistic approach. It's called self-actualization. And I suppose that's just a process of us becoming, right, self-actualized. And everyone's path to self-actualization is different. And for some of us, we go through more traumatic and painful experiences. However, everything's relative, no, right? So if we look at what's happening around the world, right? Like I still cannot believe that all these wars are still happening in Ukraine and Gaza and you name it. I have a very good friend who is a beta reader of mine. She lives in Vancouver most of the time. However, during a really extensive period of time when her husband was in Ukraine, she actually just went back to Ukraine to be with him. And I remember this one time when we were having a mini book club to just kind of go over every beta reader's thoughts on my book. She said, "Oh, I have to go. I got to go into the shelter." Right. So perhaps that's part of the path for her to become self-actualized. Right. And we just all have different journeys.
Yeah. Not one of us has even remotely similar blueprint. And what's interesting is you bring up therapy, and I'm a huge fan of therapy. And also I've talked to so many therapists that actually don't love the copy paste approach where they're actually really thankful that coaches do exist. First of all, I understand as a coach, as a life coach, the guardrails and boundaries that I am as a coach. I'm not a mentor and I'm not a therapist. I'm that in between. And so I bring that up because for any process of healing to be a cookie cutter approach or something that a group of people has to fit into, like a diagnosis or a treatment. And we could go even further into like the medical world, physical ailments, for us to say, without a doubt, this is this for every single human. That's just not realistic because the same way that we have our own soul blueprint, that's the same in the entire individual. And we've tried to like copy paste for the masses so much that we've now kind of lost that element to bring out the individual, that very individual blueprint that someone's trying to find here on this plane. So anyway, that got a little philosophical for a minute, but
yeah, no, I'd agree with you. And I have a lot of friends who are coaches as well. And I totally agree with you in the sense that therapy and coaching provide different things. There's no better. It's really, it really comes down to, for example, what the individual needs and what's really going to benefit that individual. So I actually really appreciate the fact that there are a lot more opportunities and platforms out there for anybody who is hoping to get some help, right? There's not just one single option anymore.
Right. And it's difficult to even, get in sometimes. So find the person that you feel comfortable with doing the work, and the work is going to be different for every single person. So we don't broad brush that. And I think the most beautiful part is that, coaching fills the gaps in which the copy paste systems
Mhm.
don't work. So, okay. So Amanda, your book just came out. So what moves are you excited to be making besides the book coming out? What's up on deck for you?
A lot, actually. But the number one thing in the works that I would love to highlight on the show is this mini book tour I am currently planning for. It will be my very first book tour and my very first book signing in the US, starting with a friend of mine who owns a bookstore in Seattle, Chinatown. It's called Mam's Books. That's M as in mother, A as in Amanda, M as in mother. After that, I plan to make my way down to San Francisco, San Jose, and Palo Alto, which were written quite extensively in my novel because I used to live there. The Bay Area is like a third home to me. My first home will always be Vancouver, followed by Taipei, where I was born. The next, for sure, is the Bay. I'm very, very excited to be back and visit. And while I'm in the Bay Area, I'm in the process of setting up one or two book signing events as well. And I will be sharing the details on my social media. Same as Los Angeles, and that would be the final destination of my mini book tour. Very lovely friend of mine. Her name is Emily Liu. She's the founder of this gorgeous perfume and body oil company called Iris of the Moon. She lives around there, and then we're hoping to set up like a perfume bar where perhaps I could do some book reading and then share with the women in attendance which character in the book that they relate to the most and so on. Yeah, so these are probably the biggest move that I'm making before we say goodbye to 2020.
Oh, that's exciting.
Well, thank you.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
Like,
and I love how I have been and will be supporting a lot of business women in the process. So, for example, for the book signing event in Vancouver, I booked this venue from a fellow member in this group called like BC Women in Businesses. Yeah, so she just opened her studio near downtown. So I will have my event there, and I am also getting catering from this other wonderful lady who's retired, and then she just kind of arranges her charcuterie boards and so on. Yeah, then when I'm in LA, I'll work with Emily on the perfume bar. I just love how when women support each other, empower each other, that's really when magic happens.
yes, we've all been saying this for millennia, right? Somebody will listen one of these days. So that's exciting. Let me know if you get to Chicago with a book event. That would be a lot of fun, and we
Well,
can
do.
meet up in person. I want to go to a post that you made on LinkedIn. It was a few months ago, but it really resonated with me as a coach, as I feel that I'm a big mirror for my clients. You wrote about Tell the Truth Day. You wrote, it reminds me why fiction exists to hold up mirrors that reflect what we're afraid to see directly. How to Break a Girl emerged from questions I couldn't answer in conversation about the exhaustion of never being enough, about workplace harassment that thrives because we're taught to keep our heads down, about how a father's conditional love rewrites every relationship that follows. Fiction becomes a safe haven where dangerous truths can live openly. The characters in my novel carry truths that my Asian women recognize but struggle to articulate. They're not just my truth, they're our collective truth, finally given space to breathe. The most powerful stories don't just entertain, they make you exhale, reconsider, and connect the dots you didn't know existed, sometimes with necessary discomfort. What truths are you ready to tell? So, Amanda, tell us about Tell the Truth Day, but also this deeper, and you noted this earlier about fiction becoming a safe haven where you can tell the truth without what? Fear?
Fiction creates a lot more comfort and safety, I find, for the author and the readers to be able to relate, but at the same time, truly reflect on whether or not they have been the same way as this character when another event in their life has happened. would they have done it differently? Would they have tried to perhaps make it up or compensate or this and that, right? So I feel that stories truly do inspire a lot of readers to think. And on this note, I do want to point out this one beta reader I had a few months ago who sort of complained that my manuscript was a very demanding read. So I understand that there are people out there who just kind of want to either plug along or when they engage in any piece of artwork, they just kind of want it to be entertaining and then go through it fast and furious. However, I truly do think that a meaningful fiction is going to make you think and even maybe haunt you long after you've turned the pages. And I really hope that I could deliver that for my readers.
All of us have a hard story that we could tell. How does it help us to write it as fiction?
So, how I did it, I guess, this one experience that I could share when I was crafting my own book was one of the characters is from Hong Kong. And even though I'm not from Hong Kong, there are a lot of Hong Kong immigrants here in Vancouver, and I am friends with a lot of them. I wrote about this in my novel that in 2019, there were a lot of protests in Hong Kong due to various reasons and the changes in the laws and so on. And so many of my friends here who love Hong Kong, who are from Hong Kong, they were deeply, deeply impacted. And some of them even cried at work. And I wanted to capture that piece of history because that was not really ever, I guess, talked about, like how the Hong Kong immigrants outside of Hong Kong loved their birthplace and then how heartbroken that they were. That is history, but then it was never quite captured. Yeah, so for me, through fiction, right, I was able to really tell that story and then just validate how that community felt. And I wanted to show them that their love for Hong Kong and then that their commitment to making Hong Kong a better place, right, is written in history that will stay forever, right? Fiction really would give you that ability and power to do that.
So, wow, as we start to wind down, what would you say to the women who are struggling to get their story just started?
I love that because I recently joined this subreddit called Just Start. So one thing that I often tell to my friends and so on, or even just online, is that we as human beings do not regret the things that we have done. At the end of our life, we don't. We will be very glad that we've actually done them, no matter the outcomes and the results. But we will always, always regret the things that we have thought about doing, but never get to do. So yeah, just start.
Just start.
And don't be afraid because there are people out there who will support you, like who will actually be very, very happy to give you input. For example, in this other subreddit the other day, I saw this post where this Asian woman who felt she had nothing. Like her life was just completely just meaningless at the age of like 37. And she was asking people on Reddit about how like, is it too late for me? Am I just doomed? Because man, 37, exactly, right? Yeah. And then I shared with her my stories and then I actually offered that, hey, if you wanna reach out to me on any social media, if you wanna take a look at my book, I'm happy to send you like a copy on the house. And yeah, and then she actually did reach out. And I just wanted, really everyone to know that there are people out there who are good and kind, who will be there for you. So don't be afraid to start.
That's beautiful. Amanda, where can we find you and support your work?
Other than my physical book signing events in person, it's on Amazon right now. At one point, it actually outranked Crazy Rich Asian. I wish I had taken a screenshot of that, but I did not. And it was also ranking like top one, top two on single women fiction hot release, which was so flattering because I wanted it to be more of a, right, like a women's fiction where girls and women could feel empowered and also entertained and so on. So Amazon is one. I would love Goodreads reviews if that's possible, because apparently for me to be eligible to be considered by Simon Fraser University Alumni Online Book Club, I have to have minimum 100 reviews on Goodreads. So I would really appreciate that. And I'm also on TikTok, Amanda Sung Writes, and Instagram, just at Amanda Sung. And last but not least, I recently just soft launched the website dedicated to the book, howtobreakagirl.com. It's still softy and then kind of, rough on the edges. So I do apologize for any bugs, but think about it though. Rough edges is normally where all the best stories start.
Absolutely. Amazing, Amanda. Closing remarks as we wrap up.
I would love to say a few words to my fans and supporters, and obviously, I guess people in the past who have tried to break me. I would love to express my gratitude for both. I'm really grateful to those who have supported me because, there's really no me without them. I would not have been able to go to some of the best universities in the world. I would not have written my novel, and nor would I have become a therapist in training. I am quite sure that my sister will be listening, and I would like her to know that I love her more than anything. If any of my readers have tuned in, please know that you're the reason I am in a much, much better place now than ever. And I hope every one of you will find yourself on the pages in my book. And please do share your stories collectively with all the other book lovers in your life. So as for my adversaries, I'm really grateful to them as well, because a lot of them are in my book, and I genuinely thank them for contributing to so many plot twists and all the oh my god, no way kind of moments. Without the betrayal, the trauma, I really wouldn't become who I am today. And true story, a lot of my friends actually literally have told me that they don't think I am a one in a million kind of girl, because they think I am a once in a lifetime kind of gal, and that's very flattering. And on this note, I just would like to remind everyone on the show that when it comes to those who are not aligned with us, those who are not in tune with us, how they treat us is really a reflection of them, not us. And whatever that they do not like about us is missing in them. So let them, and let us continue to shine.
Thanks, Amanda.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Oh.